Welcome back. Welcome back to the F1 Fan Zone. And what's a first race to the season? My goodness me, I was not expecting that. Quite a few things to talk about, as you would expect on an opening race of a Formula One season. And when I say a lot to talk about, I do mean quite a bit to talk about. So I'll try and get them through as quick as I can. This isn't going to be a particularly long stream, but I would like to know what everyone's thoughts are. But let's. Where should we start? We'll start with the race winner in Charles Leclerc. Excellent drive, very professional drive. Drove that race out front in total control, like a seasoned professional. Really good drive by Charles Leclerc. Fully deserved the win. And yeah, there's nothing more I guess I can add to that, which is just a brilliant race from Charles Leclerc. Now, I guess we should move very quickly onto the big talking point, and that is what in the bloody hell happened at Red Bull. I guess what the shock to the system is not just the fact that both Red Bulls failed; they both failed with engine failures. They both failed when throughout the entire race weekend they've been bigged up as the team to beat. In fact, there were even concerns that sorry, there were even concerns that Red Bull were going to run away with this. Genuinely, there were concerns that Red Bull and Verstappen were just going to run away and it'd be just a one-horse race. And then this race happened, and not only are they not really, I mean, they're competitive with Ferrari, but there's certainly on this particular track, Ferrari had the edge. But there's a few things that obviously, a couple of things that concerned that Red Bull will be concerned about. One is the fact that both their engines failed with engine failures. Two, that Gasly failed with a power unit failure that set alight. Now, Corner says the two aren't related. What I would say is there are 4 cars out there running what was a Honda engine, now is a Red Bull taken over engine. 3 of those 4 cars didn't finish because of reliability issues. That, like it or not, is a big concern at the start of a Formula One season. A big concern when they stuck that power unit, when they stuck that engine up into a higher power, which you're going to do for the race. You're not going to do that during testing. It's fragile. Clearly, it's got some issues to sort out. So we have to see what happened there. It's almost certain that the Red Bulls failed because of the same error. In fact, if you watch back to my live stream, the minute Verstappen went out, I actually said on the live stream, I said they will be concerned about Perez. 3 laps later, Perez is pulling out. So clearly, there's some issues to work there. Now, another issue that Red Bull they really struggled with today, and that is tire degradation. Now, a lot of teams are struggling with tire degradation, but in particular, the Red Bulls, Verstappen, after a few laps, was complaining it was on the radio about grip, zero traction. He kept saying zero traction. I have zero traction. So the Red Bull have got an issue in terms of reliability with its engine, and it's got an issue in terms of its tire deg. Now, what does that tell us for starters? Now, Red Bull, we've always associated with having extremely good, extremely high downforce. I would argue that the car setup today was not dealt or is not suited to the rules in terms of the fact there's less downforce than what they would normally be or what you'd normally expect a Red Bull to have. And I don't, because what happens when you've got less downforce, your car slides around. So you go into the corners, and without that downforce, you're not stuck to the track. You're sliding around a bit. You can't, your back end might be coming out a little bit side to side and so on. That causes tire degradation because it's sliding along the path rather than being sort of stuck along it, sort of sliding along. So that tells us that they're struggling with their downforce to a level in which they want to be having it, or certainly what they're used to having it. So the tire degradation is a concern, especially as Ferrari seem to be. I mean, Ferrari pitted when Red Bull pitted, but only to react to prevent the undercuts. But certainly, it's quite obvious that the Ferraris were quite happy. If Red Bull didn't pit, Ferraris would have just kept going. So they seem to be much more comfortable in terms of the downforce levels in relation to how they're driving and using up those tyres. They looked pretty quick as well. The Ferrari powered engines. We'll get to that in a second. Let's have a look at the final standings over here. I'll bring it up on my screen. So this is the final standings. Charles Leclerc in first place, and down as we see the three down here: Perez, Verstappen, and Gasly. The three that didn't finish. Hamilton, an unlikely podium. And George Russell fourth from ninth on the grid. Now, this is flattering for the Mercedes. They weren't in the race at all. In fact, up until the safety car, they were a long way back from the front of the front. The two cars up front, which was Verstappen and Leclerc. Sainz as well was quite a fair bit. Excuse me. Sainz too was actually quite a bit back from Leclerc. So and Verstappen up until the safety car point. Not miles, but the good best part of 14 or 15 seconds. So enough to make a difference, but enough also to be a pain in the arse for Verstappen when it comes to pitting. So, in what you can make from that is that certainly Leclerc and Verstappen seem to be the two quickest on the day, barring the reliability issues. Magnussen, what a drive, fifth for Haas. 2 weeks ago, he had no career in Formula One. Having previously tried and failed in Formula One, I guess. Fifth place, what a great drive for Magnussen and Haas as well. They'll be very pleased. Bottas, sixth in that Alfa Romeo. The Alfa Romeos and the Haas. And actually, what you'll notice here, there is a trend here. And that is the power unit. So there are 4 engine suppliers in Formula One: Mercedes, Ferrari, Renault, that power the Alpines, and essentially Honda power unit or Honda engines, but they're not labeled as Honda anymore. With the Red Bulls and the AlphaTauris. Now let's have a look at where the Ferrari powered units are and where the Mercedes powered units are. Well, in fact, let's start with the back of the grid here. Mercedes, 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 Mercedes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The back 6. They supply 8 cars. 8 cars in the Grand Prix. 8 cars have Mercedes engines. 6 of those made up the bottom 6. The only 2 that are the exceptions to that are Hamilton and Russell, who are miles off the pace to the front. Now, you don't need to be a rocket science to work out that there's something not quite right with that Mercedes power unit. Ferrari, on the other hand, supply 6 cars. 6 cars Ferrari supply, and look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those 6 are in the top 10. 5 of those 6 are in the top 10. Why has that's a question that I think needs to be asked. Why has Mercedes gone from having one of the best power units to literally having the worst power unit? Literally the worst power unit. Big questions to answer there for Mercedes. And Toto Wolff said in his interview after the race as well, to be fair, he said he would need to evaluate, obviously, in terms of the car setup, but he did say they need to find some power. Now, what we know, there's 2 possible reasons, two causes, if you like, which has caused this issue. The first is the fact that this Mercedes power unit, you got an engine and you're fitting it into a completely different car. If you put in last season's car, it was designed to go in last season's car. Now you've got that same car, but you get into a completely different car. The shape of the car around the engine, how that allows how that works with the airflow, Does the engine get overheated? Is it too compact? Is it too tight? There's many sort of questions you could argue about that in particular in terms of that setup. Another thing that Mercedes have got an issue with is the fuel type. Now, obviously, in order for Formula One to become more green, the fuel is now biodegradable, or should I say, it's more biodegradable? I think it's 10% biodegradable now. That means that the idea is supposed to be that you burn less of it throughout the race. You're burning less fuel, therefore it's supposed to be greener. Also means the cars are a little bit lighter and so on, although they're the heaviest they've ever been, but that's the idea anyway. So Mercedes using 10% biodegradable fuel is clearly impacting their power units, because 6 of the 8 cars that run Mercedes-powered engine make up the bottom 6. The only exceptions are Hamilton and Russell, who are miles off the pace. So that tells us Mercedes have an issue with their power unit. Clearly an issue, quite a big issue as well, if you ask me. If your 6 customer cars, Mercedes, have 6 customers and all of them make up the bottom 6. And then, of course, Red Bull with their power unit and their engine, 4 cars run a Red Bull's power unit. That is the Red Bulls and the AlphaTauris. 3 of them didn't finish. So Red Bulls have also got issues with the power units. The one power unit that appears to be performing much better, or the one engine that appears to be performing much better at this moment in time, is the Ferraris. 6 drivers, 6 cars have Ferrari engine on it. 5 of them make up the top 10. So that's an interesting look at that, and we'll have to see how that progresses over the next weeks. Now, one thing I wanted to look at as well, in terms of that, to back this up, if we look at the speed, these are the speed traps in sector 1, 2, and 3. Now, sector 3 is a little bit. Sector 2 is more the middle of the track, is more turns and so on. Sector 1 and sector 3 includes the first half and the second half of the main straights. And we'll get better idea in terms of the speed, I guess, in terms of outright pace, in terms of straight line speed. And if we look, Ferrari powered, 3 of the top 5 there, Ferrari powered, 4 of the top 5, sorry. Over this side, sector 3, the other long straight, Ferrari powered. It's no surprise. Ferrari powered. It's clear that Ferrari have the better engine at this moment in time. Now, not necessarily the most powerful engine, but it certainly works better with this 10% biodegradable fuel. Certainly better than what Mercedes engine works. And again, what is the evidence to underline that? Mercedes powered. In all fairness, the only reason Schumacher was 11th because of an issue that happened at the start of the race that caused him to drop back a fair bit. Otherwise, he was looking pretty good with some points himself. So, yes, it's quite clear that Mercedes have got a power issue, and they are clearly not able to deal with the 10% biodegradable fuel as well as perhaps Ferrari have. With Red Bull, Red Bull have pace in their car. There's no doubt. They went out today in uncharacteristic circumstances, should we say. They have got pace, but they are clearly vulnerable. Red Bull have got 3. There's 4 cars that are powered in that by that old that historic Honda engine. 3 of those didn't finish. That's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. So they've got some issues to work out with their engine as well. But also, like I said, one thing that certainly Red Bull were moaning about, Verstappen in particular, we didn't hear too much from Perez on the radio. Obviously, the TV coverage is focusing on the Verstappen fight with Leclerc. but they were struggling on their tyres, and they were struggling very quickly after changing tyres. Not 15, 20 laps after changing tyres, 7, 8, 9 laps after. There's Verstappen on the radio, losing grip, got no traction, zero traction was the words he actually used on several occasions. So we'll have to, again, that's another thing to monitor. The next race is Abu Dhabi. In fact, I will tell you now. In fact, I can even bring it up in a minute. Let's have a look at the schedule, shall we? Schedule. So, of course, we've had that testing. Yep. So, the next race, next weekend, Saudi Arabia. Next weekend, and then a 2-week break before the Australia Grand Prix. So, Abu Dhabi, and we saw last year, this is a power-hungry circuit. This is a power-hungry circuit. Now, the problem I think we may have here for Mercedes power is that they are crap. Their engine is not fit for purpose at this moment, and they are about to go in a week's time to a power-hungry circuit. I can't see anything other but another Ferrari win at this moment in time. I honestly can't. And for me now, I would argue that Ferrari may well be the favourites in this championship. I think the Red Bull have shown that they've got reliability issues. In terms of the middle of the pack, I mean, if Mercedes can find that power, if they can get that engine clicking with a 10% biodegradable fuel, I expect to see them improve and Mercedes powered cars to improve. In terms of it, it's so hard to say if they got issues with their aeros. And you would have argued perhaps they do have issues with their aeros, but then you look at the fact that it's all Mercedes power car taking up the back of the grid, and actually maybe it's not so much the aeros, but more on the power. I think that is where the issue lies. I think they need to focus on why it is that they've got that Mercedes have got their engines are just lacking power. In terms of Red Bull, again, we'll go back to there very quickly before we finish off. Yeah, they've, like I said, they've got work to do. I don't think they'll. I did hear Christian Horner after the race, and he said, it was a brutal way to finish, and it would be. I think a lot of people. There was a lot of cheers, by the way, around Bahrain, around the circuit, when Verstappen went out of the race as he was pulling into the pits. Lots of cheers. That'll be a bit new to him. That will be a bit new to him. He wouldn't often. It's something he wouldn't necessarily experienced. Normally, he's got quite a good backing, but today there was lots of cheers when Verstappen was pulling into the pits. So they need to find out what's going on with their engine, and again with their tyre deg. That to me suggests that they perhaps don't quite have the full downforce package. It's not that they're lacking more downforce than other teams. It's just that they're not able to deal with the less downforce, because obviously the cars have less downforce this year to them in comparison to last year. They're just not able to control it in the way perhaps they would. Or in terms of the thing is, Verstappen's it's very hard. The one thing Verstappen I think will cost him time and time again over the years to come as a racer is Verstappen is a gung-ho type racer. He doesn't consider the long term. And I know today he said he come out and he said on his out laps after pitting that he didn't really push. And if he had pushed, he would have taken lead and so on. Actually, the statistics, the lap times, the sector times in those out laps suggest actually he did push it pretty hard. So for me, I think he wasn't entirely, in my opinion, entirely truthful on that in that respect. But it's very hard. Verstappen's not the sort of person you can turn and say, lift and coast and look after your tyres and keep your fuel level and so on. He's not that sort of driver today. He's not a long-term clever thinker like someone like Lewis Hamilton is. Lewis Hamilton, as we know, has time and again proven himself to be able to to push hard when given the opportunity to push hard, but also to be conservative and say, look, it's a long-term strategy here, Lewis. We're playing it for the long game. Let's keep it, Verstappen, for me, he's proven himself time and again to not be able to do that. And actually, his tyres degrading in the speed in which they did was probably because he was pushing too hard with a car that has less downforce than what he's typically used to having. And so actually, his pace probably was inflated over testing and over practice, because you're not worrying about tire degradation so much, are you? Especially on your soft, short runs with low fuel loads. So you stick a load of fuel in that car, stick some weight in there, and that car moves around. And Verstappen probably was overdoing it a little bit for the tires. He probably didn't manage the tires at all. He probably didn't even recur to manage the tires at all. So we'll have to see. We move on now to Jeddah, to the Saudi Arabia circuit, a very quick circuit. And as I said, I fear at this moment in time for the Mercedes-powered cars there. It's a power-hungry circuit. And we'll have to see. I think some teams have got some parts that are going to go there as well to Saudi Arabia. So we'll see how we get on. Yeah. Until the next time, take care. I will be back next weekend for the Grand Prix for a live stream, a live watch along. So I hope you will join me for that. And I'll see you all again soon.